Hey, Richard Bryce here, Tennis Hacker. In this video, I want to show you 3 important strength exercises to help you get more power on your serve. Now, obviously, technique is all important when it comes to generating power on the serve, but what it's really important that you understand is that you can only use high-level technique if your body is capable of it. You need to have ranges of motion in certain areas, and you need to have strength in certain areas in order to be able to have high-level technique. And what I find with a lot of adult tennis players is they're working on their technique, they're buying programs, they're hitting thousands of serves, and they're just getting injured because their body isn't capable of doing the things that they're being asked or told to do. So what I'm going to show you in this video are 3 really important exercises to help you strengthen your shoulders in a way that's going to be really beneficial and that's then going to let you have better technique and get more power on your serve. So I hope you enjoy the video. If you do, it'd be great if you give me that thumbs up. And if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, really appreciate it if you could do that as well. Okay, so we're going to be working on 3 exercises, but I want to start by quickly explaining why we're going to be doing them and why they're so important. In order for you to use optimal serve biomechanics, you need to have certain ranges of motion, so flexibility in certain areas of the shoulder, and we also need to be strong in certain positions. And the way this works, it's kind of a continuum. If we're really weak in certain areas, our brain isn't going to let us have full range of motion and flexibility. Also, if we're really weak in certain areas, our brain's smart. It's not going to let us fully accelerate and get full racket head speed when it doesn't feel safe and it doesn't feel like it can protect us. So the first exercise that we're going to be doing is strengthening the internal rotator in this position. So when you watch high-level servers serve, begin to trophy position, as they drive up and go to accelerate into the ball, they get a lot of external rotation, and you'll see that their racket tip is pointing down towards the floor because they've got external rotation here. So what we need to do is we need to make sure our internal rotators are really strong in this position. Now, there's a number of different muscles that internally rotate the shoulder. This is internal rotation. Some of them we don't need to worry about, like the chest muscles, the lats, some big strong muscles. We don't need to worry about those. But there's some smaller muscles, a smaller muscle specifically, that's going to be really important that we need to make sure it's strong in this position. And by making sure that it's strong, it can be really helpful at 1, letting us have more range of motion so that we can get back into that position, and 2, allowing us to get a little bit more acceleration, or basically not restricting us from getting acceleration from some of the other bigger muscles. So the first thing we're going to do is strengthen our shoulder internal rotation in this position. The next 2 exercises are all about allowing us to decelerate properly. So after we've gone up into contact, we're then hitting through. We're going from external rotation into internal rotation. So we've got internal shoulder rotation and we've got pronation from the arm or from the forearm. But we've got the shoulder internal rotation here. And if your muscles on the back of the shoulder aren't strong in these positions, your brain's pretty smart about that. It is not going to let you throw the racket up at maximum velocity if it doesn't feel safe that the stabilizing muscles on the back of the shoulder can slow this motion down. So we're going to be strengthening our external rotators in a variation of this position, and we're also going to strengthen the muscles below the shoulder blade that are important for stabilizing the shoulder as well. So that's why we're working on these 3 exercises. Okay, so for the first exercise, we're going to be strengthening our internal rotators in this end range of motion. I've got a band attached to the fence. It's a fairly light band, and that's where I recommend that you start, but it's something that you can build up and work on the strength over time. Now, there's different ways that we could do this. You see some people strengthening this muscle down there, and that can be useful, but the body's all about specificity. So we're going to get a better carryover and better result if we go into, if we replicate the position that we're going to be using when we're actually serving. So I'm just going to stand in that position, and then I'm just going to work on a small range of internal rotation. So I'm trying to pull forwards, but I'm not pulling all the way forwards. And the reason I'm not doing going all the way forwards is because we don't need to worry about this range as much. It's here that's going to be important, so we're just going to work on this small range. And when you start by doing this, I want you to start going nice and slowly and nice and controlled. So go slowly forwards and slowly backwards. So even just with this small range, maybe taking 2-3 seconds just to pull forwards by a couple of inches, and then slowly on the way back. So really working on control in this area, just slowly forwards and slowly back. And in terms of developing strength, initially you want your sets to last for about 40 to 60 seconds. So if I was using that speed, I'm going to be thinking of doing this forwards for, if it takes 4 seconds per rep, because I'm doing 2 seconds forwards, 2 seconds back, 2 seconds forwards, 2 seconds back. It's going to be around 12 to 15 reps just to get a decent length of time in terms of the length of the exercise. And doing 2 to 3 sets of 12 to 15 repetitions at that speed is going to be a good way to build strength up in this particular muscle. So that is exercise number 1. One of the things to kind of focus on though is keeping your elbow still. If your elbow is moving out of position or dropping backwards, it's going to make it less effective. So you want to try and keep your elbow more stable. For exercise number 2, we're going to be strengthening the external rotators, but in the end range of motion here. So now I'm just standing on a band. I've got my arm to about 90 degrees in front. You can vary this position. You can actually work on different positions. But again, I'm working on this end range of motion. Now, you might have more range of motion than me. You might be able to get your arm further down. But for me, this is about my end range of motion. And we're going to do the same as we've just done. I'm not going to go all the way up. I'm just going to work on this end range of motion here, going for slowly up and slowly down. About 2 seconds in each direction. Again, the kind of guidelines I've just given you. To build strength, a good starting point is for your whole set to last for around 40 to 60 seconds. So if you were to go really quickly, and I'm just bouncing it like this, I do 10, 15 reps or 12 to 15 reps, it's only going to take around 15 seconds. It's not going to be as effective. So I want to control the range of motion up, control the range of motion down, do 12 to 15 reps at that sort of speed, just with this small range of motion, and a few sets of that is going to be really effective at building strength. Now notice I'm giving myself a cue here. I'm kind of pointing to my shoulder and keeping it still, because what you don't want at the moment is you don't want your shoulder coming forwards, so you want to keep it in place and just work on that range of motion there. So I'm strengthening the external rotators that pull my arm up. So that's exercise number 2. Okay, the final exercise that we're going to be doing, we're working on strengthening the muscles that pull the shoulder blade back and down. The way that we're going to do it, I've got the band attached lower, and for this one you'll probably need a much lighter band than you think. And again, we're working on specificity, so we're trying to strengthen the range that's going to be the most important. So what I'll be doing is pulling my shoulder blade back and down, so thinking about this, and then trying to raise my arm out to the side. And actually, depending on how strong you are, how much control you've got in this area, just doing that without any resistance can be a really effective strengthening exercise for this muscle. But I'm going to add in a band just so you can see what it looks like. I'm pulling my shoulder blade back and down, and I'm just doing a raise like that. So that's a little bit too much tension for me. So I'm going to pull it back and down, and then just raise. And as I do this, pull back and down, I can feel a lot of tension in that muscle. Now, you can do this like I've just described. You can do 2 seconds up, 2 seconds back, but depending on how much control you've got, you might not find that you're able to kind of hold it in position as well as you need to. So if you can hold that shoulder blade back, raise up, lower down, kind of keeping that shoulder blade pulled back the whole time, do it. Otherwise, what I want you to do is pull it back, do a raise on the way up, lower it under control, and then reset and go for it again. But we're going to be using the same guidelines as we did before. We're talking about taking around 4 seconds per rep, 12 to 15 reps per set to give us that length of time that's going to really start to strengthen these muscles. So if you just do these 3 exercises together as a workout, that's going to be a really effective workout for helping to stabilize your shoulder for your serve. It's going to help you get more range of motion and more power. It's actually going to be really effective for helping you with your forehand as well, but obviously we're focusing on the serve here. Now, depending on what other training you've got going on, depending on the time you are in the season, you might want to structure it a little bit differently, but the guidelines I've given you here, what would be very useful as a kind of a good way to develop strength. So doing that maybe 2 or 3 times a week for 6 to 8, maybe 6 to 12 weeks would be a really effective way to get strength into these areas, and you can expect to notice some significant improvements in your your serve mechanics and serve power from doing that. Okay, I hope you found this video helpful. Obviously, I haven't spent too long on the kind of structuring it and how that works guidelines. So if you've got any questions on that front, feel free to reach out to me. Before I go, I just want to let you know about a resource that I've got for you about shoulder pain. So if you're currently dealing with shoulder pain when you serve or at any other time when you play tennis, I've made a masterclass that goes into a lot more detail about addressing injuries, because of what I've talked about here is kind of improving performance and injury prevention stuff. But if you're currently dealing with shoulder injuries, pain's complicated, there can be a lot of reasons for it. So I've made a full masterclass where I'm going to show you kind of how to approach things there. So I'll place the link down there and I'll place a link up there. But otherwise, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.